What has really changed since Hippocrates wrote his first few medical documents in ancient Greece? Is the current state of medicine proof that God is actually real? Today, I want to talk about this, and I do not mean the healthcare system with all its bureaucracies and vicious cycles. That would be very interesting, but a whole other topic with a different approach and perspective that you need to take. I'm talking about medicine. I'm talking about the developments and the innovation and the state-of-the-art of medicine, and the question that if indeed we have so much knowledge and we've been doing this for millennia, why haven't we been able to solve so many issues around the world? And honestly, why are we suffering so much today? Why is everyone sick? Honestly, doctors don't have the answers for it. So I'm going to raise a lot of questions today. Doesn't mean I have all of the answers, but I am wanting to connecting some dots that I've been thinking about. Let's get into this. I know, today we're in my car. Apologies for the setting, but honestly, this is too much of an interesting topic to not talk about. So yeah, let's focus on this. We've been cutting limbs for 2,000 years. We've been studying plants, drew poisoning from plants. We've been studying animals. We've been brewing teas and getting all of those concoctions and all those natural remedies. We've been discovering the properties of nature and the elements that we can make it from poisonous to actually healing for more than 2,000 years, and that's a lot. We have done the absolute most, and in terms of experimentation and in terms of actually progress in working with this type of solution. We've even played with psychedelics. We've written books. We've come to treatments and 3-step diagnosis. We have vaccines and biomedical compatible probes catheters that we put in people's bodies. We have valves that made our animals. We have made a lot of progress. However, what has the medicine of the 5th century before Christ come down to nowadays? What has really changed since Hippocrates wrote his first few medical documents in ancient Greece? I just want to take a pause before we go any further. I'm not questioning at all the value of modern medicine, of Western medicine, if you want to call it that way. I'm not against it for now. This is not debating that. This is actually debating just the true evolution that we've been able to perform as humans. But I still understand that we're very, very fortunate that today we can have a diagnosis of a disease, and in 3 steps we can cure it. We can take a pill and no longer have pain, and we can cut out limbs truly when it is needed and not just for research purposes. And vaccines have saved thousands of lives. So I'm not actually questioning that. I'm not opening that Pandora box for now. So the purpose of this video is actually to talk about all of the times that medicine was not able to cure, to alleviate, to heal, to actually treat. So why are we having this blind faith, in my opinion, in the so-called modern medicine? Why have we stopped recurring to the homemade concoctions that our maybe grandmas or even moms still used to make? Why did we flip the switch so hard on this instead of just, addressing the situation, and for one thing we can go a bit harder on pharmaceuticals, and on the other we can just go to homemade remedies? What has changed? Has life gotten too busy for holistic healthcare, or has the medicine, the industry of pharmaceuticals become too easy to access for us to even care for other alternatives? Health is the loudest kid in the block right now. Holistic, integrative, modern, Western, Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, you name it. There's so many variants and there's so many trends right now. We demanded that people would become certified in order to speak on social media. So influencers became doctors. Doctors are now also influencers. And now we're all drowning in information, confused as heck, because we seem to believe that expertise equates morals. But guess what? It really does not. With more than 1,000 years of knowledge, we've come to a halt. We're stuck. There's less and less treatments for the diseases that we are diagnosing nowadays, less and less options that actually cure, heal, and alleviate your pain. However, we are more and more sick every day. We call it inflammatory, we call it a chronic, autoimmune, genetic, epigenetic. It's a string of connected words that sometimes we don't even seem to understand. And mind you, neither does your doctor. And that's exactly my point. Medicine has evolved to a point of we are, again, overly informed. We are drowning in information, but we lack more and more the reason why. No matter how much medicine seems to discover, connect, and understand, it never seems to be enough. We've actually extended our lifespan in around 30 years, yet we are getting sicker and sicker, and I would even debate the quality of living. It's not as high as it used to be, or at least it's just stagnating, and it's not evolving as it should with the lifespan extending. We're sick, stressed, debilitating pain, we are lethargic, confused, and we don't seem to understand why. This is a time we're more informed about our health, but not better. We've tried the diets, the supplements, the lifestyle changes, the protocols, all of the trends that we see online or that we read on papers, but it seems to never be enough. And this is where I connected to the question that I asked initially. Is this proof that God is real? In the sense that if we keep digging and trying to get more and more information, and we can have names for it, we can have even apparent reasons for why we feel a certain way, but it seems to never lead to a true solution, not just the explanation, but the solution to why we feel like this and to fix it so we can feel better again, we feel like ourselves. Is this the reason that humans just are limited to the point that God made this, that He orchestrated this in such a way that we're just not meant to combat it this way? Maybe this is more than just a physical battle that we're facing here. The history, the facts, and the myths about healing. Now we're going to talk about 3 things that I think help us understand how we got here, why is this happening, and maybe why we cannot get out of it. This is partially, in my opinion, human condition, of course, as I speak of in so many of my videos, but also in this specific scenario, it comes with a topic that I've mentioned before as well, that I think spreads out as our main sin as humans, to be truly honest, but that it ramificates into such different areas of our life, and I believe this is one of them. Number 1 is the history of idolatry. Again, I did a whole video on this about our tendency to create idols, and in that one I also explained that idols can be a concept, it can be an idea, it can be a feeling, it can be a person indeed, and it can be an object. In this case, I believe science has become an idol for a lot of people. People from the sciences, people from the healthcare, and also me included. I do have a background in healthcare, not as a professional healthcare practitioner at all, but in studying of biology, of medicine, and how that interacts with the body and the physics of it. I always found that super interesting, and parts of me over the past few years were confronted. I had to kind of deconstruct my idolatry for science and the so-called facts, and even question some of those facts. We in science, there is one thing that I think it's commendable, which is adaptability. In science, we're always trying to prove something, but we always remain open, in theory at least, to be proven wrong. Not just by our peers, not just by as a result of a certain paper that we're writing, but it can be years down the line. That's why science is always being updated, and I've always loved that. I always found that fascinating. I think it's a good way to keep ourselves humble. But it seems nowadays that this idolatry that I'm referring to has extended to people beyond the sciences, because now we have access to so much information that if you actually notice, people are starting to use the studies, the papers, in a lot of debates and a lot of arguments to try to win over the other side of the argument. They most times actually mention numbers and so-called conclusions of certain papers without understanding the context, or at least giving it to the other side. That can mean that you can say a percentage, but you don't say how big was the population, how big was the sample that you were initially studying. So pretty much that makes it meaningless. Another thing I want to talk about is virology, gene modification, and man-made disease. We all know that, again, I'm very thankful for the possibility of having vaccines and gene therapy and whatever not that we've developed through those techniques. However, it is also factual that man has developed a lot of diseases that would not exist today if we hadn't meddled. In science, that's how it works. This is how you make a vaccine, this is how you make a lot of therapies that are used and do have results. But a lot of that came from experimentation. Just like I mentioned in the beginning, that we did experiment with poisonous animals or plants to try to draw that active from it and use it in a different way, and that's how we found out a lot of healing properties that we still use today. This is also how we found out that you can take a gene and change it and mutate it pretty much, and sometimes they escape labs, sometimes they infect people, the scientists that are working on them, and they can infect other people and cause outbreaks. You can actually Google this. There's so many studies and stories of outbreaks around the world. In the 90s, in the 80s, it was not that long ago, and of course the most recent one, which I'm not going to get into now. Okay, so we reached the final point. This is a icky one to talk about, not gonna lie. I had to ask myself this. I see a lot of people, me included, not getting into personal details, but I see a lot of people dealing with ailments, to say the least. Doesn't mean they have a diagnosis yet, but they know something is up. And I started questioning myself, are we talking about here stress that then causes or just exacerbates symptoms and diseases? Or are we talking about lifestyle that leads to diseases, that leads to illness, and then the stress makes it worse? Or even, let's say, there is this thing of we are creating more diseases, we are creating more issues, and people do become truly sick, and they just start manifesting it down the line in different ways, and then it just becomes more hard to connect the dots and to label it. So what I mean with this, there's a sea of information, as I've said so many times already, and we again have access to so much, yet we don't have clarity about what's actually going on. We can run all of the lab tests and the doctor can say, I can read that you have this, you have a lack of that, you need more of this, but they don't necessarily know or can explain why did it happen, where did it start, because we all know that the system, our organs, they're all connected, and it's hard to address a certain symptom that might be related, to your kidneys without having in mind your digestive system or your brain. Everything will end up being connected, and more medicine seems to want to compartmentalize. There's the doctor of the brain and the ear and throat and nose, and the doctor of the heart, and I think less and less they want or are interested or even capable of studying how the whole system interacts. We are actually feeling like crap. This is real. It's just become too much. Life is way too fast. Information comes way too often, and people are way too loud, and our brains just get louder and louder every day. We are way too distracted as well. So by the time we actually realize we're not feeling well, it's a huge knot, and it's hard to even start pulling a thread. We don't even know where it starts or where it ends or how they connect with each other. And this is for us, our body, the body that we wake up to every day, that we've known for years and years. And then we expect that if we take it to a doctor, he will be able to fix us. This was my light bulb moment that made me ask myself, why are we not just slowly going back to the basics, like the homemade remedies, the plants, the herbs? And it's not to discredit that when you are actually in pain and you have a disease that you shouldn't treat it, but it's that probably that treatment will work better if you're addressing all of the foundations. Like if your sleep is okay, if your nutrition is okay, if your mind is okay, if you have a community of people that support and hear you. And I don't mean support you as in take you to the doctor or tell you what you have. That is important. But I mean care for you, that you feel heard, that you feel loved and understood, or when they don't understand you, there's still a space for you to just exist with them. And vice versa. Are you also showing that love to someone else without the interest or the need to get it back? Are you giving to the community? And I know this sounds so basic. We've all read this in books. We've all had parents or maybe grandparents comment this nowadays. We're so selfish. We're so self-centered. And I mean, even God, that's what so much of the Bible is about. It's like, stop focusing on you. It's not about you most of the times. And funny enough, ironically enough, and I do say this against myself, mind you, because I've also suffered with these issues. It's like when we're suffering, even physically, I believe that the results can come even faster, and they can be even better if we turn outwards, if we turn to the right people, to the right one, as I always mention. And yeah, so this to say that I don't think we are over dramatizing things. I think we truly feel unwell. A lot of people around us do feel unwell, and they just take it as normal. They say like, this is just the way it is, I'm just gonna accept it and go. And then the fact that when we do have something that could be just minor, we either overthink it and try to solve it and fix it in a million different ways, or we just don't have the basics. Because what is the purpose? What's good if you're taking all of the supplements and you're doing all of the blood tests every 6 months or every year, and you're seeing all of the doctors, but you don't have a safe community at home? You don't have someone to love you. You don't have a pet. You don't have a plant. You're not growing things. You're not creating something. You're not giving away. You're not getting back. And, this is where the holistic and an integrative and Ayurvedic medicine the traditional Chinese medicine can come and talk so much about, because I think they try not to discredit that part. And again, this is not modern medicine versus natural medicine at all. I think herbs have a place in a time, but there might not be a solution for everything and everyone, and vice versa. But I don't think we all need to be experts and doctors to understand the basics that I'm referring to. Anyway, this was a huge rant, but I hope this made sense. What I'm trying to say is that I think God should play a bigger role in our lives, and this is one area that I'm actively, personally implementing, because what's the point? What's the point of all of this technology if we don't have God, if you don't have faith, if you don't have discipline, and all of the other things that I mentioned? Let me know in the comments. What do you think about this? What is your view on modern medicine right now? What is your view on this perspective, this pull and push about the natural remedies versus the pharmaceuticals? Is any of them demonized too much? And if you come from this background or not, I'll be super interested. Drop a comment, and I guess I'll see you in the next video. Bye!